When dealing with text, numbers and dates, Excel acts differently. So it's worth exploring how to enter text, numbers and dates into Excel. So your default book 1, and let's start in A1, and I'm just going to type my name. Once you've typed some text, whether that be text or numbers or a date, it's not actually accepted into the cell until either we press return, or, let's go put Guy here as well, we press tab on the keyboard and that takes us out of the cell but to the right instead of downwards, or one more, we click the little green tick here, which effectively says accept what I've typed in. There are 3 ways really of making sure the text enters the cell. Until you actually carry out the enter process, the text is just sat above the cell and will not actually drop in. So it's return, tab, or the little tick at the top. Enter in a number, and then again tab or enter. So I'm going to tab, so I'll go to the right, and the number drops into the cell. Now what you will notice is that the text has left aligned and the numbers have right aligned. By default, text will always go to the left and numbers will always go to the right. Now with dates, pretty much a similar thing happens. Tab or enter, and you can see the date drops in. Now you can't really tell where it's left or right aligned, but let's just widen the column and then you can see the date is right aligned. We can override the formatting when we look at formatting cells, but text will by default go to the left, numbers by default will go to the right, and dates will go to the right. Now what happens if we then type in more text than the width of the column? It doesn't actually enter the second cell here, and we can show that it doesn't by actually typing something else in. And then you cannot see the rest of my surname because it has to run behind. So the text is there, we can see that at the top here in what's called the formula bar. But when there's something in the adjacent cell, the text will run behind that cell. When there's nothing in the adjacent cell, you see that it runs across the front of the cell. But that's only for text. Now we can look at how to deal with that, like widening the column or auto-fitting or wrapping. Now with a large number, if I were to type in too big a number to fit in the cell, and then tab or return, what you'll notice is the number gets changed into scientific notation to make sure that it fits. So it displays in the same width by effectively chopping the number down into scientific format. So now we get 8.28749, E plus 21 means that there are 21 zeros to go on this 8 before you get to a whole number. Now what would happen if a date was too wide? Well, the date can only be so wide, we can't type in a longer date, but I can make it narrower. So the date can't fit, and what you'll notice is it's going to hashes. So a number that cannot fit will not run over the end of the cell. What you'll find is Excel here has changed it to scientific notation. It's made that scientific notation even shorter. We've now got 8E plus the 21, but the date has turned into hashes, and all these hashes mean is that the cell is not wide enough to display the numeric or date content. With text, it doesn't care, it'll just let it run over to the next cell or run behind the next cell. So whenever that occurs, you will need to widen the column or reduce the font size. Either of those will help the date or the number to actually fit within the cell. So that's entering text, numbers and dates, and just a little bit on how Excel handles those dates and numbers.